Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the John Collins trade. Now, that might be old news and a bit of a step backwards in the timeline, considering all the crazy stuff that's been going on as far as day one and day two of free agency. But it's really important for us to realize where this all started from and what set the tone for where the league is going. The new CBA deal is one that really alters what we were used to seeing and we're accustomed to seeing. The increase in the salary cap, for example, instead of increasing by as much as the league is allowed to, now it's been capped at 10%. This is to prevent things that occurred similar to when Kevin Durant was able to join the Warriors, for example, because that extra money and flexibility, that jump and spike in the cap room gave the Warriors the ability to do that. Now, teams are still going to go into the luxury tax area, but not nearly as much, and that's because of the restrictions that have been put on it. The second tax apron is the area of the CBA deal that really affects teams, and everybody needs to keep an eye on it and truly understand what it means. So it says that teams that are in the 17.5 million and over area of the luxury tax threshold have restrictions. Those restrictions include not being able to sign players to the mid-level exception. The teams can't take on more salary in a trade than they're sending out. These teams won't be able to trade first-round picks from 7 years out anymore. Teams that are below the second apron still will be able to. These teams also, and this is an important one, won't be able to sign buyout players during the season. So these are pretty significant things that teams do not want to be affected by. So what we're seeing right now through the first couple of days of the offseason, and more so through free agency, is a thing of teams not wanting to spend too much money if it's not going to yield great benefits. There's going to be some teams that are going to ride that line of the luxury tax and hopefully not cross over, and they're going to finagle some ways and make some contracts work. But the rest of the teams are going to try and steer clear of it, but also not be under the 90% using of their cap, because then they're going to end up forfeiting it to the league. Why does this matter when it comes to John Collins? Well, it's really simple, actually. He was the first player to be a casualty of this system. They weren't getting the results that they needed from him. As a team, as the Atlanta Hawks, they weren't seeing the contender label being put on their back like they hoped it would have when they spent all this money. And so they really had to get rid of him. Now, originally, they've been trying to trade him for roughly 3 seasons now, but nobody wanted him before for the price that they wanted to get him off for. What ended up happening was, after his finger injury and his percentages dropped, his rebounds dropped, basically all statistical categories he ended up suffering in. He went from a 20-10 guy to like a 16-8 guy, which is a significant difference when you saw him trending upward early in his career. The issue of this was, now nobody's willing to pay that high a price when they see a diminishing value in a player. For him, this could be viewed as good to a certain extent because he's going to the Jazz. Now, the issue is the Jazz have a very deep rotation. They just drafted Hendricks. They also have Lauri Markkanen, who's playing like prime Dirk, to be quite honest with you, shooting incredibly from the floor. They also have Walker Kessler coming back. Obviously, he was a very significant surprise, and he was very sturdy on the defensive side of the ball. Now, they also have Kelly Olynyk, who, when he shared the floor with those players, they made it work. So it is reasonable to assume that John Collins can slide into that rotation, but that means that Hendricks, who could really start on another team, is going to have a diminished role, most likely. You have the Jazz, who are also going to have some other pieces at the guard position that are going to come back, such as the Jordan Clarksons of the world, the Colin Sextons of the world, and they're going to be a solid team. Will they be a playoff team? I think they're a play-in team right now. If everybody stays healthy, we could see them slip in there. Now, they're also in the West, so they could befall a couple tragedies along the way. Now, if you're looking at this from the Hawks standpoint, this was literally just a salary dump. That's all it was, because they couldn't get any more value out of him, and they got Rudy Gay in a second-round draft pick. But that's really nothing compared to the trades that were originally provided for them. Now, they had to do it because they wanted to get within the range to be able to not be restricted, but at the same time, Rudy Gay is on an expiring contract. He's not going to be a significant contributor to their team or their roster as a whole. And that second round pick is down the road, so there's no help in the immediate future. So they got worse from this trade, but they got under the luxury tax. The Jazz really won this trade because they had money to spend. John Collins is effectively, from all metrics, just staring at it on paper, a better player than Rudy Gay. They won the trade from both a we have money to spend standpoint and a we need a better player standpoint. So now their talent got better. The floor of their team's success has increased, and really it didn't cost them much of anything. Now, what does this mean going forward? We're seeing some very interesting free agency signings, and you're seeing some people get released so that they can make cap relief. Recently, Draymond Green also declined his player option just to come back to the Warriors on a lesser deal, but that was stretched out a little bit longer to give him some more flexibility that made him happy. And also, the front office saved over $40 million just by restructuring his deal from $27 million down to $22 million. Now, the implications of this tells us that you're going to see a lot of players get a lot of money, and you're going to see some players get very little money or not as much as they were hoping to get originally. They might just be consistent as ever, but it's just the fact that teams need to get up to that 90% usage so that they don't lose that money. And then you just have other teams that don't have any money to spare. If you're the Suns or the Lakers, they've made a couple plays, particularly the Lakers, really getting some quality role players for not necessarily pennies on the dollar, but a reasonable amount that they could afford without being restricted after the fact, which is really important. You're going to see a lot of GMs making some significant moves. Now for the Hawks, they have been given the okay from their ownership to go into the luxury tax so long as it makes them a contender. They weren't a contender before when they thought they were with John Collins. They trade him away, get a little bit of cap relief, so now they have more money to work with, and they have an exception that they can use. In these coming days, I'm going to go ahead and start a little mini series day to day, just talking about the biggest signings from each day. Obviously it's going to tail off as this week finishes up, but I should have a good 4 to 5 videos just explaining and breaking down what players going where means as we go into the 2023-2024 season. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And as always, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.